Hello there and welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers. We're here for another show this week. And as you know, we meet interesting people and deal with topical issues. And sometimes our issues aren't just topical. They're 57 years old.
Well,
they're topical.
They're anciently topical, yeah.
They're interesting nonetheless.
They are. Think back. November 1955. What were you doing at that time? Well, you should have been thinking about the Capitol Hill High School Redskins taking on the Douglas Trojans in a epic battle on the football field for a number of different reasons. And they had brought in extra bleacher seats, made the Capitol Hill Stadium a bowl, added 8,000 seats or 3,000, I've forgotten, a large number of seats, and quite a turnout, and had quite a game. And it was a classic example of desegregation, a classic example of good sportsmanship, and something that we're proud to still talk about today.
An all-black team playing an all-white team, and it
on the road,
and it was the talk of the town.
It was.
In November of 1955.
Talk of the newspapers.
And today we're going to revisit that with two of the stars of that game, Dick Soergel and Russell Perry, the two quarterbacks from that ball game 57 years ago. It's today on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
Well, prices at the pump are hitting new highs this week. In other news,
gasoline is expected to top $4 a gallon this week.
expect drivers seeing sticker shock at the pump.
OPEC has raised the price of oil again, and Wall Street worries.
Well, a full tank of gas is going to set drivers back.
Straight ahead, the latest news on
If you need big accounting firm expertise but aren't happy with the value or level of partner engagement from your current national firm, contact Hogan Taylor. Hogan Taylor provides national-level public accounting expertise with high-touch, local partner service in all areas of tax, audit, business valuation, and litigation support. Contact us at hogantaylor.com/The Verdict. Hogan Taylor, big enough to know, small enough to care.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guests.
Today we're just thrilled to have a couple of gentlemen that we've wanted to have on this show and do this show for a long time, and today we're getting to do it. On my right is a longtime friend of mine, Russell Perry. Russell is a newspaper publisher. He is the publisher of the Black Chronicle here in Oklahoma City. He is the president of Perry Publishing and Broadcasting. His companies own a number of stations around the South. Radio stations. He grew up in Oklahoma City, and in 1955 he was a freshman, I think, quarterback for Douglas High School football team, Trojans. He did his undergraduate work at Maryland State College. He has 2 honorary doctorate degrees, one from Langston University and one from Mid-America Christian University. He's heavily involved in civic activities and doing some wonderful things for our community. He's in the Journalism Hall of Fame, the American Urban Radio Hall of Fame, and this is his first visit, however, to The Verdict, and we're delinquent in having you, but you're glad that you're here.
Well, I'm pleasantly happy that I'm here.
Thank you.
Kent, thank you.
On my left is a face that may be familiar to our viewers, Dick Soergel. This is Dick's second trip to The Verdict. We did a show about Dick a number of months ago about a 3-sport athlete. Dick is a retired banker, retired from Liberty National Bank a number of years ago. He did his undergraduate work at Oklahoma State University, where he got his Bachelor of Business Administration degree. He grew up in Oklahoma City, and in 1955, he was the senior quarterback for the Capitol Hill Redskins. So we have the opposing quarterbacks here looking at each other pretty seriously, I might add.
Even today.
We better move along, yeah. We better not stop.
Yes.
Dick was Oklahoma's last, and some would argue best, 3-sport athlete at a major college ever in the history of this state. He played major college football as a quarterback, major college basketball for Mr. Iba, in a forward position, I believe. And then he was an All-American pitcher on the national championship Oklahoma State University baseball team. So he has quite an illustrious athletic history. He is involved in a number of activities here in the city, always generous with his time. Welcome back. Glad to have you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's try to put this in context to start with. In 1955, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma A&M at the time are playing in the Big Seven Conference, and neither of our state universities had an African-American player.
That's correct.
So under that culture, the idea of an all-white high school playing a football game against an all-black high school drew a lot of attention. Now, I want you guys to think back. What was, when you heard that was going to happen, what emotions did you have? Did it seem like a big deal at the time, or was it just another game on the schedule? Russell?
Well, you know, that's a very interesting question. It was an exciting moment. But one of the things that most people did not realize at the time, that both coaches were just outstanding men, Coach Soergel and Coach Paya Miller, and they were friends. And prior to each starting of the season, the all-blacks season and the all-white season, we would scrimmage Capitol Hill. And I don't know whether it was a secret or not, Dick, but the coaches kept it together, and what a knockdown drag-out. We would just, no bars unturned. And I assumed the coaches got together and decided that they would bring about this change for this city and this state. And of course, they talked to us, and I'm quite sure Coach Spiegel talked to you guys, and it was something to build towards. And we didn't know what the impact it would have on this city and state, but I think it was the beginning of desegregation in Oklahoma City Public Schools.
I think you're right. I wish I'd have been a mouse in the corner listening to those two coaches.
Absolutely.
When they got together and started talking about this idea, because it was a wonderful idea and a great experience, and something that I'll never forget.
Mm-hmm. Well, Russell, if Douglas did not play white high schools, whom did they play against? Who were your opponents?
Excellent question. We played the two largest cities in Oklahoma, Lawton and Tulsa, and Muskogee. And that was our league. And then we went outside the state of Oklahoma. We played in Kansas and Texas and Louisiana, and I must say we were very competitive in those days.
Well, I think you'd won 46 in a row heading into the night that we're talking about.
That's correct.
So it was you had seniors who had never lost a game.
Had never lost a game, yes, sir.
So there's a lot on the line here when this game takes place. Not only is there's this cultural event that's taking place for the city, but also, I mean, Douglas in a 46-game winning streak is pretty impressive. Now, keep in mind, Oklahoma hadn't won its 47 in a row yet.
That's correct.
They had started it, but they would not have completed it yet. So
that's correct.
That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it was a big deal, and we knew we had to face Dick Soergel.
Which was a pretty big deal.
Which was a big deal. No, I'm serious. He was a giant.
In those days, did you have film of the opposing teams? Did you guys? What was the studying like?
What's film? No.
What was the scouting report like for the quarterback of the Redskins getting ready for the upcoming game?
Well, the scouting report against Douglas was fear. We knew that we were in for a real tussle because we'd scrimmaged Douglas before.
Absolutely.
And they would just beat the daylights out of us in those scrimmages. And I remember very well, and they were knockdown dragouts. And I can still remember Coach Miller, he used to have that board that he'd walk up and down behind that line. If you didn't get off the line,
he would fire away.
He'd give you some motivation.
You can't do that today. But
No.
You can't do that today.
But fear was a big motivator because we knew we were up against a quality team and somebody that was really going to be tough to beat.
Russell, let me ask you, did it soak in on you as a freshman or sophomore?
I was a sophomore.
Yes. Just the starting quarterback as a sophomore with a 46-game winning streak, did the importance and significance of this game strike you as a 15-year-old
Very
kid?
much so. One of the things that I think, and Dick can speak very well of Coach Spiegel, these two coaches were motivators. They were tremendous motivators. And yes, we were prepared very well and well coached from that day and time. And we knew that we had quite a battle, and we knew Most people won't admit this, but I'll admit this today. We were trying to beat the white guys. And the white guys were trying to beat the African Americans at the time. So yes, we knew how important this game would be.
If you know, how did they determine who had the home field?
I don't know that. Dick may know that.
No, I don't know that.
Capitol Hill ended up as the home team.
That's right. That's right.
And let's just discuss just a minute, about a minute we have left here in this segment, what they do to Capitol Hill Stadium to change it to accommodate the crowd.
Well, they just brought in some bleachers so it would accommodate the crowd. I don't know whether the stadium, I think, held 4,000 or 5,000 people. But they brought in bleachers because we knew it was going to be a packed house. And that particular night, not only were the bleachers full, but all around the fence there were people standing. It was a
sight to see.
Big crowd.
Yeah, but there are 8,000 seats available, according to Bob Dellinger's article in the
Yes.
Oklahoman at the time. 8,000 seats available. They were all full, plus standing room only everywhere.
Plus it was televised.
Yes, yes. And radio broadcast and televised. So it was a big deal.
Do you ever run into anybody who brings up this game besides just me and Kent, or do other people through the years talk about it?
I tell you, it's getting kind of thin right now. Dick and I were talking about that, but I want to say this about the camaraderie and the relationship and the sportsmanship. From time to time, Dick and I, we've had lunch together, talked about the game, we've talked about our families, and so it's created a base for so many other things that, of community interest, and we followed one another, followed the families and things of this nature. So it has a broad extension of what that game was all about. And to answer your question, from time to time, old timers, I'll see them and they remember the game very well. And so,
well, I did not go to Capitol Hill or Douglas, but at Northwest Classen, where I was in high school as a senior at the time, we knew about the game. We knew it was happening. We were in awe of it going on, although we weren't really a part of it.
Yes.
It was widely known.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something else. Dick may differ with me on this, but during that era, as I can recall, even at that younger age, it was the blue-collar community of Oklahoma City and the less fortunate community on the east side. And for us to come together and create the kind of atmosphere that developed into what this city and state is enjoying today, and the universities as well. I think it's marvelous. It's a wonderful opportunity.
We're remembering a game from 1955, a high school game between Capitol Hill High School and Douglas High School with the two starting quarterbacks, Russell Perry and Dick Soergel, and we'll have more on the verdict when we get back.
The thing that has made the most sense for me is realizing that I am still an educator, and that is what I do at the Chickasaw Nation. I'm Dr. Amanda Cobb-Greetham. I'm a historian, and I'm Chickasaw. The Chickasaw Cultural Center is amazing. It is a very, very special place devoted to the sharing and to the celebration of Chickasaw history and culture. State-of-the-art technology, exhibits that are not like anything I've ever seen. The Spirit Forest is incredible, and you feel as if you have actually just walked into a forest with huge trees all around you. It's timeless, and yet it's sort of also representative of our time depth, to really just sort of reach through time and touch the past. By the end of the exhibits, you really have a sense of Chickasaw cultural and political resurgence and the extent to which we are a healthy, dynamic, and vital tribe today. Chickasaws have always been an inclusive people. This is something for the whole community and for the state of Oklahoma.
We believe in bulldogs, rams, and Spartans. But above all, we believe in students. Oklahoma's oil and natural gas industry is investing millions in education, equipping over 10,000 teachers with the nation's first energy-based curriculum. We're ensuring every Oklahoma student is equipped to lead America's energy future. Oklahoma's oil and natural gas industry, advancing our state, empowering our nation.
When you have something important to communicate, it becomes clear that there's a lot of competition for your audience's attention. So how can your message stand out and actually resonate with your audience? Legal Graphics has the answers. The team at Legal Graphics will work with you to plan, design, and even test your presentation to ensure your message will be heard and remembered. Call Legal Graphics today to schedule an appointment. The readiness is all.
Welcome back to the set of the verdict. As high school football season begins in all parts of the state of Oklahoma, we are recalling a game that took place back in 1955 between Douglas High School and Capitol Hill High School. Well remembered because it was an all-black school taking on an all-white school, and at the time that had not occurred before.
That had not occurred. I wanted to ask each of our guests here, starting with Russell. I'm not asking about the build-up to the game or the aftermath of the game, but during the game itself, what's your single most vivid memory?
It'll never leave me, Ken. I think we, and correct me, Dick, if I'm wrong, we were up 7-6 with about 28 seconds to go in the game, or a minute and 28 seconds, something like this. This Dick Soergel took that ball, and he and his teammates drove that ball 55 yards, if I can remember it, and beat us with the last 28 seconds to go in the game, 13-7.
Barely got it over the
Barely got it over, but it was
line.
a knockdown, drag out, unbelievable, and they just wouldn't give up. They just drove it to the edge, and it just destroyed us. But we ended up thinking it was a good game. I may be a little off, Dick, but do you recall that moment?
You're about right, and that's the time I remember the most also, was that last drive.
Yes, it was fantastic.
I can still remember how vividly that I got in front of our team and told them, I said, you know, guys, this is our last chance.
Yes.
If we don't score, you know, it's going to be over. And boy, those guys,
they put it together.
They bundled up, and we just kept knocking that ball down the floor and down the field, and luckily we scored.
Did you have a field goal kicker if the drive had stalled?
I don't think so.
Well, that's why it was the field goal kicker had missed the extra point on the first touchdown.
Yeah, we didn't kick many field goals.
James Dobson, I don't mind saying his name. James Dobson, according to the newspaper, was your kicker.
Yeah,
and quite a fine fellow and quite a tough player.
And I would be remiss if I didn't say that our driving force offensively was Prince Scott.
Yeah.
He's passed on now, but he was a great halfback, and
he had over 100 yards rushing that day.
That's correct. He would we would kept. Then we had another guy that was behind him, Wallace Johnson. Both ended up at the University of Oklahoma.
Let me just to kind of give a kind of an inside football type question, but were you calling the plays?
Yes.
You called the play in the huddle. What they weren't brought in from the sidelines?
Not at all. That was new. That was generations to come. Now we had our own litany of plays and
game plan,
and we could automatic. But I think the quarterbacks in those days they were the coach on the field.
Yeah, now, and people would be astonished to learn, Dick. Is the same situation at Capitol Hill?
I called them at Capitol Hill, and I called them at OSU. Right. I called all my plays. Occasionally the coach would send in a special play, if they'd see something that looked like it was open, but basically I called all the plays. We would have a game plan, and we'd have certain plays that we would have designed for the different locations on the field. And but I called them all.
And on defense, how did that work? Was it just one standard defense, or were there specific defenses that were called on the field?
Oh no, there were a lot of defenses, but they were signaled from the sideline. Usually the defenses were signaled in, and the defensive captain would tell the other players what defense to call.
I'll tell you something else that was interesting with us. We went both ways.
Oh yes.
Yes.
So what's different? What position did the two of you play on defense?
I played defensive halfback and quarterback.
I played safety or defensive halfback, and in college I played both offense and defense. They had a rule that if you came out in the quarter, you couldn't go back in that same quarter. So you played a lot.
It wasn't a historical game. We beat them the next year. I had to get that in.
I went around.
We're gonna have to do another show on that.
Okay.
The 56 game.
56.
You know, Russell was an all-state quarterback too.
Yes.
He was an outstanding player and a great guy.
Well, the number of similarities through the two of you's lives are striking, from bank executive all the way back to being the starting quarterback in the same high school game. So let me ask you this. Did high school sports benefit you as a professional? 20, 30, 40 years later, were you relying on any of the attributes of high school sports that you might have learned?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The ideas of hard work and competition, that's life. And if you're not willing to work hard and you're not willing to compete, I think you've got a tough time in life. And that starts out in sports. It starts out, you know, if you're going to be in sports, those things have got to be instilled in you, or you're not going to be successful, and you're not going to play.
It's interesting because, Russell, every once in a while you hear someone say, we need to move high school sports to an extracurricular activity, or do away with it at all. We ought to be concentrating on what goes on in math and science and some of those other core subjects. But do you feel like you benefited from high school sports later in life?
More so than anything, I benefited greatly from high school sports. And I'll use that game that we lost in Capitol Hill. Defeat is just painful. Mm-hmm. Losing is just painful. It gives you a sense of drive, motivation, intestinal fortitude that you never even thought you had. And it gives you the ability to work hard, seek success, and seek excellence. The better man wins. And I think that happens in life as well.
Well, Dick, you have competed now at the highest level of sports, even with at that time, the Boston Patriots, now the New England Patriots as a quarterback. Why is it you chose to jump into football after college? Because you were an All-American pitcher. You were well known and well respected, the Big Eight, all Big Eight basketball player. Why is it that you chose football?
I chose football basically because there wasn't any minor league. You either made it or you didn't. And in baseball, I had so many old friends that kicked around in the minor leagues, and that wasn't a good life. And I was married and had a family, and I knew if I'd made it in pro football, I'd either make it or I wouldn't. And I didn't. I stayed through the exhibition season. And it was a good experience, but it was a learning experience, and I'm glad I did it.
Russell, one last question, and we're out of time. Mm-hmm. Your subsequent relationship with Prentice Scott was always very close, was it not?
We were not that close, but we were friends.
Yes.
Like Dick, and I mean this sincerely, Dick was, from what I understood and read about Dick Soergel, he was an excellent student as well. Prentice was an excellent student. I was an average student. And saying that, I think Prentice and Dick had so much in common, and I think Dick's career reflects that. I'm a Johnny-come-lately, and I just I never had any, knowingly I didn't have any understanding of where I would end up in life. My background was much more, it's from the poor area, and but I think athletics just inspired me so.
You didn't think you were going to be owning radio stations someday?
I didn't think I'd be owning anything.
Let me tell you one quick story about Prentice.
Just about 10 seconds.
Very quickly, after that ball game in the spring, I got a phone call, unbeknownst to me as to who it was. And lo and behold, it was Prentice Scott. He called me on the phone, and he wanted to know where I was going to go to college. And I told him I thought I was going to go to Oklahoma A&M. And he was so nice and so articulate. And then he said, I'm going to go to the University of Oklahoma, and I sure wish you would go there.
We're going to have to make that the final word. Thank you both.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you, guys.
That was such a neat call. I'll never forget that.
How could you forget that?
You know, how could you have the courage to pick up the phone and call somebody that...
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
We are a very conservative family, and we believe in old-fashioned family values. We have a loving home there, and we love kids, and we had 5, 6 of our own, and but had no idea we were going to go into adoption, but it's been very gratifying.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of the verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online. Welcome back to the set of the verdict. We are wrapping up the show with Russell Perry and Dick Soergel, remembering that football game from 1955 when all-white Capitol Hill took on the African-American champions at Douglas High School.
Yeah, quite a game.
It was, and we appreciate your interest level. We have a website. We'd love for you to go there and tell us about a guest that you'd like to see on an upcoming edition of The Verdict. But for now, that's going to do it. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett, and we'll see you next week on The Verdict.
The preceding program was produced exclusively for the Cox Channel.